I was having problem with my Miata. I didn't like the ride, and the solution was to change the spring and shock mechanism. I use Fly Miata parts and instructions to do that, and I will put their web page and instructions in the description. Safety first, make sure the car is safe and secure. Remove the tire and put the lug nuts back to the studs so you don't have to lose them. Remove the sway bar nuts, make sure the sway bar is released. Then following, you have to remove the lower shock bolt with a tool, and then following this, you can always use a power tool to make the life much easier. After you remove the bolt, make sure put the nut back and then go up and remove the upper shock mount nuts. I use a power tool to do that. Then after, you have to go front, upper, inner control arm. This is not easy task and it's difficult to do it, and I have to use a metal pipe to increase the arm so I can remove the bolt more easier. Once it's released, you can always use a power tool which makes everything way faster. Over here using the power tool, and then after that you need to remove the bolt. You have to slide the bolt towards the radiator, but you don't have to remove completely. After, the shock should be free to work on. First attention should be on the spring compressor. You have to be very careful to use this and make sure don't go all the way in the one arm, go back and forth. Make sure you are compressing the spring evenly without any problem. Then after, you have to disassemble the shock. After removing the springs, and you have to work on the new shocks. These are the new shocks from Fly Miata, and the short one is rear and the long one is the front. After you're done, you have to use upper and lower washers from the previous shocks and drill it to 12mm, and make sure you read the PDF file from Fly Miata and reassemble the shock and spring mechanism accordingly. Please follow the instructions, and once you're done, the shocks are ready to install back to the car. Then you have to go ahead and insert the shocks. I would go ahead and put the upper shock mount nuts, which helps to keep the shock mechanism upright, so it's easier to install the remaining. And you have to install the upper inner control arm. That is not that difficult task to do. You have to wiggle it a little bit and you can insert the bolt without any difficulties. After you insert everything, you can use a power tool. That helps a lot and saves lots of time. And then finally, when you're done, make sure you use the appropriate torque specifications to tighten the bolt. The same way, you have to use the front lower shock bolts. I use the power tool, and appropriate torque is important. Here's the torque range. Then after achieving appropriate torque and everything is tight and secure, go ahead and lift the shock mechanism all the way up and carefully install the upper mount bolts with the appropriate torque specifications. Then after you can lower the suspension system, and when you are done for the both sides, you can go ahead and insert the sway bar brackets, and pretty much the front is done. After all done, I put the tire back, and I would like to keep the car on its tires in the front so I can go ahead and work on the rear. Make sure you lift the car on the differential. Only problem I had is the left upper shock mounts are not easy to remove because the fuel lines on its way. But once you are release the upper mount bolts, and it's easier to remove the remaining. Again, remove the sway bar and then go ahead and release the rear shock bolt, which there is no nuts here, only the shock bolt itself. Then you can go ahead and remove the rear upper control arm bolt, and that is easy to remove all entire shock system. Again, the same way you have to follow the instructions from Fly Miata. The washer needs to be drilled to 12 millimeters. After you're done with drilling, reassemble all the shock and springs and follow the instructions, and then go ahead and put the shocks and spring back to the car. In this moment, I would recommend to put the upper mount bolts, temporarily hold the shocks upright position, then you can go ahead and install the shock bolts. Go ahead and tighten the bolt and lift the car suspension with the car jack in order to put the rear upper arm control arm alignment, and put the bolt and nuts and use the appropriate specifications. Once you're done here, you can go ahead and tighten up the upper mount and go ahead and put the sway bar. And now car is ready to drive after you put the tires in. After I put the new shocks and spring mechanism, the car is riding way better, more stable, and it's much more fun. Thanks for watching.